I live about 20 minutes away from my workplace by car, which on most days feels like a small, almost effortless journey, a brief window of calm before the demands of the workday begin. Yet it stands in stark contrast to the public transport alternative, which is nothing short of exhausting, involving a labyrinth of transfers, unpredictable delays, crowded trains and buses, and the constant anxiety of whether I will make it to work on time, all while juggling my irregular shifts, which alternate between the ungodly hours of midnight, the early mornings of 8 a.m., and the late afternoon starts of 4 p.m., making the convenience of my own vehicle feel almost like a lifeline, a rare island of control amidst the unpredictable chaos of my schedule, while my senior coworker, who also drives, enjoys the enviable consistency of 8 a.m. shifts, arriving calm, composed, and unbothered, as if the universe has conspired to grant him perfect conditions, free from the daily, logistical nightmares, traffic uncertainties, and sleep schedule complications that constantly shape my life, which naturally creates a quiet, simmering irritation inside me over time, a feeling that grows more pronounced when responsibilities are not shared evenly, as is often the case, and when we were informed of an upcoming supplier visit, about an hour's drive from the office. That irritation immediately transformed into anticipation tinged with frustration, because although the planning, coordination, scheduling, and communication with the supplier were his responsibilities, all of those tasks somehow landed squarely on me, leaving only the ultimate, unavoidable question looming over everything. Who's driving? And it was not a trivial question, because this was a significant drive, one that required both energy and accountability, and yet my senior, true to form, began his slow, subtle campaign of avoidance, making leading comments over the course of a month, dropping hints like, "Have you ever been to that area?" or "Do you mind driving?" which were cleverly crafted to make volunteering seem like a natural choice, when in reality, it was a transparent attempt to offload responsibility, and I, fully aware of his strategy, consistently and carefully rebuffed him, maintaining boundaries, refusing to become the office chauffeur, and holding firm against the gentle coercion, while at the same time observing his tactics, noticing the half smiles, the casual phrasing of questions, the almost imperceptible gestures of manipulation, and learning to see the subtle ways he avoided accountability. And then one day, I overheard him speaking to our manager, saying that although there was still no plan, he would figure something out. And for a fleeting moment, I allowed myself to hope that he might indeed step up, but as 3 days passed with no tangible action, only vague remarks and polite evasion, I realized that this was yet another demonstration of avoidance, and my simmering frustration began to coalesce into a plan, a quiet, deliberate strategy that relied on patience, observation, inconvenience, and timing. And about a week before the visit, I began leaving my car at home, deliberately opting for public transport, waking up an hour earlier, navigating crowded trains and buses, enduring delays, the noise, the waiting, the standing, the unpredictability, yet finding a strange, perverse satisfaction in the extra effort, because it was intentional, deliberate, strategic, a minor hardship that served a greater purpose, while also giving me time to catch up on podcasts, reflect on office dynamics, and observe my coworkers, noticing the subtle power plays, the unspoken tensions, the ways in which people avoid responsibility while maintaining an appearance of competence, and every day, as I endured the additional commuting burden, my plan unfolded quietly in the background, like a slow-motion game of chess. Each move deliberate, each observation adding to the eventual outcome. And after 3 days of this, my manager noticed the subtle change, the longer commute, the unusual timing, and that was the perfect moment to introduce the next layer. A fabricated story about my brother being in town and borrowing my car to see the city with his girlfriend. A harmless but believable explanation that simultaneously highlighted my senior's lack of action while also creating a sense of urgency and responsibility around the unresolved question of transportation. And then, to solidify the strategy, I drafted and sent an email to both my manager and my senior, asking the supplier for advice on reaching them because our transport plans had fallen through. A small nudge that created pressure, revealed negligence, and forced accountability, which had the desired effect. My manager became livid, berating my senior for irresponsibility, for leaving the planning to a junior, for failing to take ownership, calling it shameful behavior, while my senior, cornered, realized he had no choice, and begrudgingly drove us to and from the supplier's location, each minute of that journey a quiet lesson in accountability, and throughout it all, I observed silently, savoring the small victories, noting the visible discomfort, the grudging compliance, the lessons being learned in real time, while maintaining outward calm, professionalism, and the satisfaction of seeing a carefully orchestrated plan succeed without confrontation. And finally, the perfect touch of poetic timing occurred. My brother went home the day of the visit, allowing me to arrive at the office the next morning in my own car, triumphant, relaxed, and victorious, reflecting on the full sequence of events, realizing that every hour of commuting, every subtle rebuff, every fabricated story, every strategic email, and every observation contributed to the ultimate outcome, a quiet demonstration of patience, strategy, and the undeniable power of timing. And as I reflect, I see that this story is not merely about commuting, logistics, or office politics, but about human behavior, foresight, observation, and the subtle joy of orchestrating events to achieve accountability without confrontation, about learning the lessons of patience, strategy, and careful timing, and seeing how small acts, deliberate inconveniences, and subtle interventions can lead to the most satisfying victories, proving that even in seemingly mundane office routines, there is room for cleverness, strategic thinking, and long-term planning. And in the end, every detail, every reflection, every internal monologue, and every carefully calculated move played a part in creating a final outcome that was both fair and satisfying. And the story, in all its small, extended, intricate details, becomes a testament to observation, patience, strategic action, subtle manipulation, accountability, and the quiet triumph of careful planning over inaction, laziness, or avoidance, showing that even in the small matters of daily life, who drives, who plans, who takes responsibility, there is room for strategy, reflection, intelligence, and the deep satisfaction of seeing a plan unfold exactly as intended, culminating in a perfect outcome where responsibility is realigned, lessons are learned, and quiet victories are celebrated internally, without fanfare, without confrontation, and yet with the unmistakable sense of justice, satisfaction, and the quiet triumph of patience, strategic thinking, and well-timed action over mere circumstance, avoidance, or laziness, proving that even the smallest, most mundane events can contain the seeds of long, reflective, satisfying, strategic victory when approached with patience, insight, and careful planning.